This tutorial will introduce you to the mechanics or the basics of creating a case study. We'll get started by choosing the correct template, and that is Activity Maker Mobile. Double-click on the template or click on Create Project. We'll title this Course Design, and essentially that will create a folder on your hard drive that will have all the ingredients for this project. When a tool completes its process, it will show us a default page. The tool has a variety of page types. So this is a text page. When we click on the little arrow here, we see all of the different page types. And you can see that this is a text page. The important thing to note about generating case studies is once you've done your storyboarding and you have a vision for the case study, there's any number of ways to execute on that vision. There are any number of page types that allow you to do different things. So from presenting information to page types that will allow students to interact with the content. In the interest of time, I'll paste in some content. Let's just change the formatting of this so you'll notice that we have all the tools to change formatting. This is a snippet of a case study taken from a larger project. The participant is placed in the role of an instructor. The setting is a two-year college. The participant will converse with a college dean who is asking for a course design. As the conversation progresses, the participant is asked to choose the appropriate step or the best next question to ask to execute on a backward design process. We're going to format this information, and the way we can format this is just simply select, and we're going to make that a heading level 1, and we can go ahead and center that. It's always good to title your pages, and so this particular page ID will be Introduction. We can insert an image, and I'll choose the image icon, choose Get Image. You'll notice here that there's a fixed width and height. We will make that a relative width. So 50%, whatever the screen width is, whatever the screen width is, we'll have our image 50% of that value. And then we'll align it to the left. So here's our image. So we have, and again, the thing to note is when you want to present information, you use the text page type and ensure that all of your pages have a page ID. To create a new page, select the plus. So at the bottom of the screen, you'll see plus, minus, so adding a page, deleting a page, saving. Okay. Now, we could present more information. That would be perfectly valid. I'm going to introduce you to another page type called the interview. And then you'll notice right here, so we'll select that, and that changes page 2 into an interview page type. Now, in the first field, we would type in what the interviewer is saying. So in this case, it's the college dean. The college dean is asking the participant to design a course. To show us the college dean, to include an image, you would simply click on that little box, and then here's our dean. There we go. So we have the interviewer, or the dean, saying, I would like you to design a course on the use of technology in the classroom. What would you like to ask me about the course? And then we're prompting the participant to pick the best first questions to ask. We'll then insert each of our questions. So this is the first set of responses right here. So there could be more than one question, but this is all categorized as response 1. And what are the established student learning outcomes of the course? This is what the participant would ask the dean. What are the established student learning outcomes of the course? Have they been approved by the curriculum committee? Are they etched in stone? And then the second question might be, or the second choice might be, will this be a classroom or hybrid class, or will it be strictly online? And these obviously are not all equivalent. Some are good questions to ask, and some perhaps not so relevant at the very, very beginning. Who are the students? What needs do they have? What is their situation? And other factors will affect this class. Now, this may be a very appropriate question to ask, but for the purpose of this case study, it doesn't follow a pure backwards design model, so we're not going to give it full points. We'll give the last response, so who are the students, and basically this is asking about the situational factors that underlie this course design. And again, in keeping with backwards design, we'll give that the highest points. And will this be a classroom or hybrid class, or excuse me, will it be online, hybrid, or class? We'll give that fewer points. So the point value is done right here. Our page ID, we'll just call this question 1. This will help us in organizing this particular case study. And then you'll notice to the right of each of these fields is this little icon. It's a branch icon, and it allows us to branch, but we're going to keep our case study simple, so it'll enable us to put in some feedback. In the first case, it's a legitimate question, and we'll make note of that. Remember always to click on Show Feedback. This isn't relevant for us right now because we're not branching, so our options are no action, and since we're not branching, none of this applies. Just simply show feedback and then the feedback. And we'll do the same for the second response. And we're simply saying that this is a legitimate question to ask, but perhaps it's not the best first question to ask. And then we'll go ahead and provide some feedback on the last option. Whenever you want to save your project, you can simply click on Save. And just to give you an idea of what this all looks like, we're going to choose Preview. When we click on Preview, it's always important to reload, and that'll ensure that nothing is cached and that any change that you make will actually be reflected. So here we are. Here we have our information page. We got our navigation right here, and we have our question, and you can see what happens as we hover over each of the responses. So we'll choose a bad answer here and submit that. You get the feedback, and you can see that our needle has progressed a little to the right, but the idea here is your cumulative score should push you towards the green area, push you beyond 80%. So we're done with that preview. And you'll notice down below here we have 2 pages out of 2. We could continue to add more interview questions. We could also, if you don't like the interview style, we could simply add a multiple choice question. And so what I've done here is we added a new page and then we just simply changed the page type. So first you add a page, then you change its page type. Here this page type gives us a question that allows us to include a question stem and any number of options here. For the purpose of this tutorial, so you can see how that might work. I think everyone will understand how the interview page will work. I'm going to put in an entirely different type of question. I'm going to put in an open-ended question. So that'll be a long answer. And long answers, so what you're able to do is engage students by having them make choices, but then explain the choices. In our first interview question, we really had a couple of good possibilities. And so what we're going to do is acknowledge that there were at least two good choices for the first step. Which did you choose? Explain why. I'm going to title this Reflection on First Step. This particular title will appear in a journal page. You can include a journal page to collate all of the open-ended answers that are done throughout the project or case study. So the student answer to this question will appear on the journal page. And I'll go ahead and add that page now. So before I do that, I should go ahead and follow best practice, which is to give my page an ID. Incidentally, once the students submit, they can optionally see the expert answer. So what we'll do is we'll include that expert answer. You'll notice on submit, and then there's a branch icon which allows us to include some feedback. And this, so the idea here is the student will answer and then be able to check their open-ended response, match it or compare it to an expert response. Let's see what this all looks like. I'll click on preview. I'll make sure that I reload. So here we get our options, and then I'm able to add an answer here. So I chose, I could say something like, I chose to ask about existing student outcomes. I wanted to know my constraints. So, perfectly legitimate. Once the student submits, they'll get feedback from the expert. They can compare and contrast. Next we'll add so you can imagine having any number of questions, any number of long answer questions, different question types, different page types. You can, throughout, you can interleave text pages in order to present more content. We'll add a journal page just to show you what that looks like. So I'll go ahead and change this page type. So I added a page and I'll change it to journal. And you don't have to do anything with this page. It'll automatically collate those responses. In addition to that, I could have resources that pop up. So we have, questions, we can present information, but we can also have resources. And I like to keep my resources separate. So I'll add a page and I'll change this to a wall. And essentially a wall, I'm just walling off content. So the wall enables me to separate my resources. Click plus and add a text page, and this will give me the opportunity of typing in a resource or copying and pasting and putting in a resource. And the thing that makes a page a resource page is very simple. Is on this, we'll title this thing Labor Market Trends. Again, it's important. In this case, it's really important because this becomes the label of the resource, and we select resources. Just check that off. Now when we preview, what you'll see is, you know, the pages we had it before, and at the bottom of the page will be some resources. So these things are always available to me. So as I answer questions, I'm able to consult resources. And then you'll notice here's it saved my response, and here are, so normally you would only see one of these titles, but I had done this on a couple of different occasions, and so it's just collating my responses from other occasions. You don't have to worry about that. You'll only see this once. And then my final step would be to export, and there are tutorials on exporting. So this is exporting the case study to a learning management system. So with a variety of page types and your ability to engage students with questions, open-ended questions, and questions in which they have to select the best answers, and being able to contrast their answers with that of the expert. With this ability, you can construct just any type of case study that you can imagine. Once you get comfortable with that, then you can start to explore all of the different branching options, but that's for another day.